Welcome to the Giving Room with Dave and David, where we encourage remarkable generosity, from amazing stories to easy to understand discussions about tools for giving that may just be right for you.
Hey, I'm Dave.
And I'm David.
And thrilled to have you join us back in the Giving Room today. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about taking care of the people you love and the causes that you care the most about. So we'll be diving into that a little bit. So pull up a chair, and here we go.
Yeah, so we're going to really, this is one of the tools for giving. You know, we've talked about cheerful, spiritual, strategic, and intentional giving. And this is just one of those things that we're gonna unpack a little bit more. We maybe talked about it in the second episode, if you remember.
Yes, the episode about barbecues, where we dove into the idea of discussing death and depression and sadness.
And it wasn't that. I mean, it was all right. It was a little happy in the end, but I think we talked about how like we all are actively dying, which is what makes this so exciting.
We did promise that we would go more into this topic of bequests later on. So here we are. We're discussing wills and really what's cool about wills and what you can do with them and how to be very intentional. Because I think for most of us, there's this perception that with my will, I just leave it all to my family and I'm good. And while that's not a bad thing, I know there's a whole lot more to it. So David, tell us a little bit back. You've done a lot of wills in your life, right, as a recovering attorney?
Yeah, and we've joked about that is, you know, my primary title is recovering attorney, and it's true. So my sort of initial work as a lawyer back in 1993, so that just makes me feel super old, was actually in a sort of a boutique estate planning firm. So that's most of what we did, lots of wills, lots of trusts, and then continue to do that even for some time through really, you know, like 2010 or 11 or so. So lots and lots, probably hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of wills and trusts. I've worked with lots of individuals to actually kind of learn about their family. So individuals and couples learn about their family, learn about the assets they have, and then kind of draft a plan based on their wishes to, you know, how are things supposed to flow after they die? Because that's really what this conversation is about. How do we take care of the people we love and the causes we love, as you said? And sometimes it's just the people we love, and that's absolutely fine. But, you know, sometimes there's an opportunity for a charitable piece, which is why, you know, we even bring this into the giving room. But yeah, so we've done quite a bit of that. And then find myself now really just advising families still on how to maybe consider this as an opportunity, again, a tool for giving, as well as organizations about how to communicate this, you know, to their donors and prospective donors. So we're gonna dig into all those things a little bit today.
And hopefully help you think broader on this idea, right? Because obviously the way you leave says a lot about who you are, and says a lot, and it has a huge story to tell. And so, again, we want to make sure that not only is there the tool, the tips and tricks to do it effectively, but there's also the philosophy. And that is, what message are you sending through your will or your trust or how you choose to leave what you've accumulated on earth? Because we know you can't take it with you. Yeah. And so there's a really good opportunity. So I'm gonna let you kind of dive into there, David, and then
I was thinking too, like one of the reasons we want to do this is, first of all, we want people to actually do this, you know. So we said that sort of intentional strategic piece. And we've talked in other episodes about these things don't just evolve, right? Things actually tend to devolve if we don't pay attention to them. And one of the things we need to do is actually kind of get our affairs in order. I know as a husband and father, that's sort of on me in my mind that I should be taking care of those things. What we do know, there's an organization called caring.com, and they do an annual sort of estate planning survey. So the thing that we do know is that the number of people that want a will like increases all the time as people, but then the number of people that are actually getting them is still abysmal. So like just this past spring, even though there's 3% more, which is not a lot, right? 3% more people had an estate plan, you know, and we're going to unpack these words in a second, had a will or a trust, but still 2 out of 3 American adults still didn't have a will. So 2 out of 3. So, you know, you just think there's only 1 out of every 3 that actually has done it.
Right.
And that same survey, they talk about like objections or like what's holding people back. And sometimes it's just procrastination. I'm familiar with that as a, I don't know about you, but I know what procrastination can do. Sometimes they think they don't have enough assets. You know, it's like, why would I even do this? I don't own anything.
Right.
Typically people do. And we're going to talk about just in a second, the difference between like probate assets and non-probate assets. And that's super jargony. So we'll just try and unpack that. They say they don't know how, but that's really why we're going to talk about this today. And we'll even give some clues about some places to do that could even be free for folks. They think it's too expensive. Again, we'll talk about that. They don't think they have anyone to leave anything to. And in that case, we say, welcome to the giving room. And have you thought about the cause that you care about? And that just takes too long and it kind of goes from there. So I think probably what we want to do today is in the vein of still just trying to simplify things, do that, create some awareness, create some motivation.
Yeah, real quick though, too, like the implications of if I don't do this, right? If I don't have a will, something happens to me, who decides where my assets go?
Yeah, the state actually decides for you.
Right.
So whatever state you live in, there actually is a will in the statutes of that state that say where it'll go.
So hopefully you really, really trust deeply your state government.
Well, it's hardly ever, and it's pretty similar across states, but it's hardly ever what anybody wants. Especially, so if you are a person who's married, and has brothers and sisters and parents still alive. And if you're a person who has kids, or if you're a person who's actually been married more than once, lots and lots of people, it is highly, highly unlikely that the will that the state provides for you is what you want.
Right. Better than nothing, but not what maybe. but you want to take this step. And so we want to help you think through this step as you go through there.
Yeah. And so just some of the terms real quick, because this is, again, it's super jargony place. Probate is like one of the things, and people are like, what in the world is probate? And it's both a noun and a verb, which is also part of the confusion, right? So we actually have a probate court, and that is just the level of state court that supervises the distribution of your stuff after you die. And that's actually what the verb is that distribution of your stuff after you die. So again, you either make your own will or have your own trust. We'll talk about those in a second, the difference. Or the state gives you their version that, they've said you want, even if you didn't. And then the court kind of goes through that process. So that's what probate is. We've sort of been trained to think it's like a super bad thing. It's not, it's just an annoying life thing, right?
Either way probate happens, you just have the chance to encourage probate to do something specific if you do your own will or trust.
Right. And it's the process that the court actually changes title to assets and, moves this asset from belonging to you, to your kids, or from you to your wife, or you to your parents even, or your siblings, depending on your scenario. So that's what probate is. Then we talk about probate property and then non-probate property. And basically it's just, what are the things that the court does supervise and what are the things that kind of bypass probate? And most people have both of these things. And the probate things, if it's an asset that's really just in my name, that's probably going to go by probate. If it's an asset that has somebody else's name, like I own it with them, and then there's these things called survivorship rights, like I own it joint with right of survivorship, that's probably how your house is titled if a married person. Then once you die, that kind of goes around the probate process. There's still a little bit of process to get the new deed that has just your surviving spouse's name on it, but it's still going outside of probate. The same with beneficiary designations. We talked about those in episode 2 also. Whenever I have that, that's going around probate. So unless my beneficiary designation says payable to my estate, then that goes through probate. But if I say payable to my spouse or my kids or to my favorite charity, then that's where that's going outside of probate.
There are some steps you can take, again, in these other areas to designate beneficiaries that will then avoid or bypass probate. And again, those are things you can look into. Same thing with your house or other assets that you buy. If you co-buy them, you can avoid that. So just things to be thinking through as you go through that process.
Right. Exactly. And then but as far as the two main vehicles for doing this, it's either a will or a living trust. So will, or sometimes it's called a revocable trust. And a will is what most people are most familiar with. It's just a piece of paper. It says, when I die, these things happen. And we say that is ambulatory until death. So it's another like super jargony term. And that just means it speaks at death, right? So it's changeable until death. So that's sort of the thing. So the will sits there. It has no effect until you actually die. And then once you die, it sort of springs to life, and your executor, the person you appointed in it to do the distribution through the court, takes it to the probate court, does the filing, all the stuff happens, right?
Right.
Contrasted to a living trust, which we say living because it's alive now. It's not ambulatory. You don't have to die for it to help you. It does require you putting your assets in it. We call that funding the trust now. But then if there's some sort of a disability or other things like the trustee you name, which is sort of in place of an executor, can kind of step in and manage your affairs anyway without having to use the court. So those are really the two things, but those both have bequest options in it.
Right. Okay. So help me real quick. Why would I choose to have a trust versus a will? Like what would be, why would I lean either direction with that?
Yeah. Let me give you like sort of an order of the thing that I just suggest based on the statistics we saw on carry.com. Yeah. So I would say like everybody, sort of regardless of your station in life, probably just needs to go get a will, right? Again, at the end, we'll talk about some places where you can even do that for free online, and it's great. So you should at least go do that.
Okay.
But then if there's any degree of complexity, whether it's in assets or family, or number of children or age of children or disabilities in your family, then, the will's not really going to it's not going to be helpful in those scenarios. So let's just say like younger children, you have,
I have 4 kids
and the youngest is
2.
Right. So we've got a long time before the 2-year-old is, sort of self-sufficient.
Right.
So under a will, like just your typical will, like if you were to die today and God forbid your wife as well, then the resources that are available to your 2-year-old become available to her when she's 18. Right. Maybe some special language takes it to 21 if it's like sort of a custodial thing we can do, right? But we probably don't want that to happen, right? We'd probably want somebody that's like older and wiser to sort of control the distributions to her for her benefit that would encourage her to maybe go to college or to do some sort of a job skill training or to, make sure there isn't some scoundrel of a boy out there, trying to, rob her of her inheritance or all of the crazy things that could happen. Potentially somebody who's not responsible or like in the instance a second ago, I mentioned if you had a child with disabilities, those are just scenarios where that outright distribution at, 18 basically is not going to be good for the child. So the trust gives us some power to defer the distributions. We can stretch things out. We can have somebody like actually overseeing it that also like loves and cares for your child. So those are probably the biggest reasons. Those. There's one more though. There are trusts that have some tax provisions in it, but it's really like you have to be, significantly wealthy for that to matter at this point. But really the family issues, succession for businesses, anything that's complicated, you probably want to look at a trust. But again, you probably at least need to go get a will now. Right. And
so step 1, get the will, right? And again, we'll talk about that at the end. We'll have some links in the show notes on where to do that. But the idea of just be covered, have that taken care of so that at least your voice will be heard up when you pass, whether it's a tragic or years down from that. But that doesn't mean you can't then between now and Lord willing, far from now, when you pass away, you can do the trust piece separately to have more control and more strategic planning there.
Right. And then once you do that, you amend your will. We do this thing called a pour over will, which basically says, if I die with anything not in my trust, court and executor, put it in my trustee will take care of it. Right.
Okay.
So that's sort of the complete circle. But I think because we know the numbers are so bad as far as who's done any planning, let's start with a basic thing. And then and just that exercise on your own will help you. And it'll give you something even maybe to take to a lawyer to actually, get some help beyond the free help you can get online.
And again, do the free thing, do the quick thing. And then again, you can even through that process decide, is that sufficient or not? Or again, go continue to get more advice there.
Right. But let's talk about, in our context, a lot of times we are encouraging generosity and bequests, which is really just a line in your will or your trust. It works in both that says, to your trustee or your executor, please give X to my favorite charity. Either for specific use or for general use, and you can do that.
Right.
I think sometimes we just automatically assume that's like an all or nothing thing, and it's like maybe sometimes it's even just cash, and that's kind of what we wanted to finish. Most of this episode talk about what are the different ways that you could do that. What are the different things you could give.
And just dive a little bit even into the philosophy of this, right? And just to kind of, for example, again, when you pass away, the way you leave says something about who you are and what you care about. And also I think one of the things an advisor, a guy I was talking to from the National Christian Foundation was talking about one time, I was chatting with him and he said that we often don't think about first, all of our assets are God's, right?
Right.
They all belong to him. And we always think about, can we actually leave too much of his money to someone who doesn't need it? Or can we, if we think about my 4 kids, right? If I leave everything to them, that's great. But if I was very, very wealthy, that could mean that they never had to work again. Now, I'm not really wealthy, but I'm just saying in context, can you leave too much and actually damage your child and their future if they're not ready for it, or if they're not capable of it, or bending on their tendencies? So there's that question. Am I leaving too much of God's money to my children? Right. That's one question. But then 2, what is the story I want to tell? And we're not, don't hear us advocating, give everything to charity. Like that's an option. But at the same time, you can share a story to your children, to anyone that knows you through your will or through your trust, of these are the things that are most important to me. For example, if your children are not following after Jesus, you can make a message through your will that I'm investing in gospel-focused organizations. I want to make sure my resources go to the most important thing, which is Christ. Yeah. And yes, I still want my kids to feel loved by my will when I give to them through my will. But at the same time, I want to make sure that they know forever, the way I'm leaving, this was a huge priority for me. I have a friend of mine, his name's Tom, and he talks about this all the time. He's like, I have 3 kids. I gave each one of my 3 kids a quarter of my will, or my estate in my will. And then the other quarter I distributed between the 5 most important charities to me, because I want to make sure that my kids know, I want to make sure everyone knows, and I want these charities to be blessed by the fact that these 5 things are really important while I was alive. I want to make sure I honor them in my death as well, and forever. And that and 5% of his estate is still significant, and it's not a significant loss to his kids either, if we're really looking at it that way.
Yeah, because they're getting 25% apiece instead of
instead of 33%.
33%. So yeah, right. But then the impact, and that's really a great thing to think about, because sometimes folks have been very involved either in their church or in another ministry during their lifetime. Yeah. And they may have been a volunteer, or they may have been a donor, or they could have been both.
Right.
And then, you're actually, they'll notice, when you're gone. So it's sort of a great way to kind of leave an exclamation point on, this was important to me. This was a kingdom thing that, I was really for. It's interesting when you were talking about, even sort of, if you have children that don't have the same faith that you have, they haven't come to Christ. Right. I actually, I've seen, there's a lawyer in Dayton, Ohio, who actually would have a preamble she would insert in wills of her clients. And it actually was like their testimony, and it had the gospel is laid out there, right? Right. And the end of it was basically, and I would love to see you in heaven as well. Please join me. This is what I could leave. The thing I could leave of most value to you is my faith, so that you would have a faith of your own. And that's obviously the most powerful thing. But
well, yeah, I mean, I just think about here. So, I'm the development director. I have been the development director at the River Radio Ministries in Columbus, Ohio for, 10 years, and not quite that many years, but anyway. And just about a couple of years ago, someone left a third of their estate to the river. Yeah. Which is amazing. I mean, it was about $500,000 given to us over a couple of years. And when you think about what does something like that do for a ministry, our organization was able to, it cost us less to buy a radio station in a new city than what that estate cost. We were able to serve now thousands of more people through the radio.
Because of one gift,
because of one donation,
right?
I mean, which is incredible. Now, I mean, and just to think through what's possible. And again, this is a once in a lifetime, or really not even in a lifetime anymore, opportunity, but an incredible way, again, to leave a permanent legacy through some cause that you care about, and in a significant way.
Well, and a lot of our examples have been, we were using your family for an example a second ago. So we were talking about, people with kids. The other folks that need to really think about this, the people who don't have kids, right? So if you don't have family, and there's a lot of folks in this scenario that maybe don't have parents alive anymore, don't have siblings, don't have a spouse or children, you should do this. It doesn't, because you don't have anyone, you don't think you have anyone, that doesn't mean you wouldn't do this. That's actually a great opportunity for you to do like that person did, and actually significantly bless another organization. You definitely don't want the state to determine that then, where's it going to go? Some, 18th cousin you've never ever met ever, right? That you don't even know who is. So,
and I think there's also this perception that, well, I can't leave millions. Is it worthwhile for me?
Yeah.
I don't have anyone to leave it to, or it won't make a big difference. I mean, the reality is it doesn't take $500,000 to make a significant difference. And if you own a car, if you own a house, if you own, again, a bank account with some thousands in it, that's still a significant gift to a charity or to your kid for that matter. And you want to make sure that they get the most of it versus being caught in some sort of government system somewhere indefinitely.
Yeah. Well, and that's some of the things we wanted to talk about here just right at the end. How do we do these things? Like, what's the provision, the actual bequest provision?
Right.
And what are some of the options that make it a really flexible thing to consider?
Yeah.
And the first is that you can give a specific amount or a specific item. So you just mentioned, cars and some other things. Right. So you can actually choose a fixed dollar amount that goes to, your favorite charity, or a fixed thing. So I've actually worked with a zoo once on an elephant collection. So it was like a collection of like statues and things, and they used it in their educational programming, but that came through, through an estate gift. So it can be a car, it could be some other collectible, and that's a great gift. It can actually be a percentage too. So you can actually, give a percentage of sort of like what your net estate is. Whenever your will and your property is going through probate, like basically all your debts get paid and then things get distributed, and you can say a percentage of that, what's left, almost like a tithe. And it could be anything. It could be 2%, 10%.
And that's probably the easiest way to do it too, because that grows with you or shrinks with you based on where you're at in life. Because if you design the will today, my financial situation 30 years from now, if I forget to update my will, is going to be very different. And so going with a percentage allows that to grow with me.
And then just another specific thing is real estate. I think we'll probably end up, we've said this before, we'll do an episode one day just on all the things you can do with real estate.
Right.
But that's one thing you can leave in your will. You could actually leave real estate to your favorite cause. And that can be, your home, that could be a vacation home, that could be a commercial property, undeveloped land. And then they could, if it's undeveloped land and they need it for a site, they can build on it. If it's just something that they could then liquidate and use those proceeds, they'll do that as well.
Right.
Or if it's income producing, they could decide if they want to keep it. But it's a great thing that you could do. And then it like passes that on. So especially if you don't have heirs or you don't have kids that can do anything with it, it would be a great gift to consider.
Or again, if your kids all have homes, there's tax implications of which, again, on that sort of thing, where it may be better to give them more cash and give the real estate to charity, right?
Yeah. Like I said, it's all based on your situation in life, right? And what do you need? What's the economic engine that you're leaving for your loved ones, and then what's left to do something else with? And again, not a problem if it all needs to go to the family. There's like lots of theology that supports the idea of inheritance, right? So that's fine. But in the case where there's too much to go to kids, which is a reality for some folks, or again, not really enough heirs or no heirs, then charity is at least something to consider. But you can also do these contingents. We said that sometimes these are like all or nothing things. And that sort of sounds like when we say like a percentage or a fixed sum or an item or a piece of property, but I can actually do all of those same things only if XYZ person doesn't survive me. So, so a lot of times, a couple would do this. They would actually both have this provision in their will. So there may be a larger asset or a particular account that they're like, I want this, either this account or this balance or, this percentage of our estate to go to this charity that's been important to us. But we only want it to happen at the second death, because we're in a couple, we're talking about, okay, when I die, I would want everything to go to my wife.
Right.
So she's got all the assets she has to work with. But then when she dies, then, because I've predeceased, then it would go to the charity. So all of the same things we talked about, whether it's a percentage or a fixed sum or an item of personal property or real estate, can all be contingent as well.
One of the things too, I think, just a quick kind of sidebar hang up that I've talked to married couples, especially with kids, is that they don't always agree on some of the things, like who takes the kids if I die, or, like some of those things. And one of the things that I highlight is you and your spouse can do separate wills. Right. I mean, and so if I died first, then it doesn't matter because my wife keeps the kids. And if she dies first, it doesn't matter because I keep the kids. Whoever is the survivor, their will is what takes place for that question. Right. And so don't allow like some disagreements there on some things necessarily prevent you. Ideally, you have an agreement and you know who the best person is. But even if you don't, you can actually take separate wills, especially in the survivorship context.
Yeah.
And whoever outlives the other one, their will be the one that gets decided on anyway, either way. So,
well, and you can play that out that it could make sense for it to potentially be different. But again, I think we'd want to encourage people to try and figure it out.
Yeah, find unity if you can, but if you can't, do the will anyway.
Yeah.
And it's okay to disagree.
Yeah, I would agree, because it would definitely better to go ahead and name somebody than to not.
Right. Because again, if you don't do it because you can't agree,
right, then family has to go to court and
chooses it.
Fight over it.
Where it'd be better, probably both of your options are better
than who it could be.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. We just wanted to let people know that it's not an all or nothing thing. You can be really creative. The amounts really don't matter. Things can be contingent. So I can actually give it to a person, and then if that person doesn't survive. But as far as sites, should we talk about places?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, to just quickly, if money's not an issue.
Yeah,
I'm wealthy. I want to hire the best will person for me, or trust person. Where should I start there? Right. And then if money is an issue, if I can't afford to do this, where's a really good place I can do this for free?
Yeah.
I'd like to get both answers there.
Yeah. So, you can always start with, if your friends know an estate planning attorney in town, that's a great place to start. The Christian Legal Society usually has listings of attorneys in different parts of the country. So you could start with them. The National Christian Foundation, their local offices probably know the attorneys in their market, in your market, that share the faith that you have, and it would be great to work with as well. So I think I usually would start there. Who have my friends used? Who sort of belongs to the Christian Legal Society? That's a national organization with local chapters. Or is there somebody through a National Christian Foundation local office that could refer me to somebody? They tend to know most of the folks that are in the area.
And again, while you can use any will or estate attorney to do this, obviously a Christian attorney will understand the eternal value of how you do this, and will understand the implications, and will think through some of those charity conversations better, likely.
Yeah. Well,
not all of them will.
That's
our hope. And again, that's why even something like a National Christian Foundation is a great place to call or ask, because again, they're thinking through those things all the time. And then what is the message you send with your will? And then again, if I can't afford to do this, if I just, I can't afford an attorney, I don't have time to find an attorney to go to a meeting, what should I do right now? What could I do this afternoon to have a will by the end of the day?
Yeah, freewill.com. So, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's, you can actually go on there and you can get a will for free, no strings attached. It's great. It actually prompts you and asks if you want to give a gift to charity. So you can actually do a will there. You can actually do a power of attorney. We won't completely unpack what that means, but it's a good thing to have. Health directives like living wills, healthcare powers of attorney, do those as well. Those are all free, legitimately free at freewill.com. The way free will came into being was actually I think there was Stanford grads did a project on how many people are doing this, kind of like what caring.com surveys every year. And they just realized not enough people were getting their wills done, and not enough people were leaving bequests. So they actually created this to do that. The way they make money is they actually kind of private label it with some charity. So you may have a charity that offers you a will service. It's probably freewill.com in the background, but you can just go to freewill.com. Yeah, it'll ask you where you live and then do the whole thing for free.
It's super simple. It's it's just, kind of next, click, next. Walk through the process. It's local to the state you live in. It handles the details. It's a great platform. And what I will say is, if you want to do this with an actual attorney, I strongly recommend go through the freewill.com experience. That'll help you think through and be ready to go to your attorney and have a lot of the answers taken care of before. And again, we're not commissioned by Free Will. There's nothing here. They're not
sponsoring this.
No, but we just are big fans of the product, and I think it's again, I've been through it. It's a great tool.
And we both know people that have done this. They actually have kind of gone through the Free Will kind of interview online, and then taken that product to a lawyer and said, this is kind of what we were doing on our own, this is kind of what we're thinking. And then they helped them kind of get to the next steps.
Because it's either you can use it as your will, or it's an attorney ready will that you can take to an attorney to help you through. Or if your situation's more complicated, again, it'll help you think through those complications in a very clean and easy way to understand.
Yeah, it's a great place to start.
So again, so thankful you're hanging out with us here in the Giving Room. I hope you feel a little more educated on how to think about taking care of the people you care about, as well as the causes causes that you care about. As always, more information is available at givingroompodcast.com. We'll have other information for you in the notes. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We want to encourage you again to live a life of remarkable generosity and also to leave a legacy of remarkable generosity. So thank you so much for hanging out with us here in the Giving Room.
Yeah, I was just thinking one more thing. I'm going to go try and find, that little come join me in heaven paragraph. I'll try and put that in the notes too.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to see, and we'll give some credit to the lawyer that I know at least used that, if not drafted it. So that'll be hopefully helpful and encouraging to families as well. So
fantastic. Well, wherever you are listening, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We would love to, of course, we have a lot more coming up for you as well. So thanks for hanging out with us in the Giving Room, and we'll see you next time.
The Giving Room podcast is brought to you by Giving Design LLC, where we help ministries and their donors utilize planned giving to change the world. Go to givingdesign.com to learn more. As always, a huge thank you to River Radio Ministries for sponsoring and producing this podcast. Go to riverradio.com to listen or learn more.